After discovering the real connection between Andy, or should I say his alter ego Victor, and Juiz, and following our team's confrontation with Autumn, as well as uncovering the touching story of the unknown, Akira Kuno, we are now set to meet 2 of the 3 remaining Yumas of the 4 seasons Yumas. Prepare yourselves for action-packed battles and uncover the effects of these 4 Yumas on the world. Immediately, Fuko went to assist Andy because he was unable to move properly, and when they looked up, they saw Autumn beginning to disappear as his core was gone from his body. Andy, Fuko, Rip, Latla, and Bunny succeeded in defeating the Yuma. Latla gazed at the damaged G-liner while the others conversed below. Rip then ordered Latla to retrieve the Soul Calibur. Fuko called out to him and expressed her gratitude for their help in the battle against Autumn, acknowledging that they could not have succeeded without them. When Fuko mentioned how their teamwork was incredibly in sync, proving that they should work together, Rip immediately refused and explained that they could not collaborate because he desired the Ark. If he were to help them, it would mean joining the Union, allowing Injustice to uncover his plan. Since Juiz was hoarding the Ark for himself, Rip had no choice but to forcefully steal it. Fuko realized the importance of the person Rip wanted to help, which prompted Rip to agree. In the following scene, Rip allowed Fuko's team to take Autumn's core. He anticipated being reprimanded for this and for Shen's death, but accepted it since they helped him. Latla handed over the remaining pieces of Onii-Chan's G-liner to Fuko. Rip asked Andy about who Onii-Chan might be, leading Andy to theorize that Onii-Chan was a negator, unknown, a self-targeting compulsory type. After this, Rip and his team departed, hoping to meet again, and Fuko's group bid them farewell. As they waved goodbye, Fuko suddenly felt the fatigue from growing inside the book and collapsed onto Andy. Fuko's face showed a blush as she lay on Andy. Andy praised Fuko for spending a long time inside the book, to which Fuko tearfully brushed off, saying it was only 10 years. Juiz then called them, and Andy reported that they had captured Autumn but apologized for Onii-Chan turning Dash. Juiz praised them, reassuring that it was alright as long as they understood that the future is not set in stone. Following this, they learned how Rip obtained his information about the past and future. During a quest a few decades ago, they captured Yuma information, and the reward was to bestow information of the past and future to one currently existing artifact, once and only once. Thus, she believes that was the artifact used by Onii-Chan to acquire the information upon touching it. However, to keep their game entertaining, God interfered and turned Onii-Chan into unknown, attempting to conceal the winning information. Yet, Onii-Chan persisted and did everything to direct them correctly, earning her respect, as well as for Andy and Fuko for their excellent work. Hearing that Fuko seemed to have fallen asleep, Andy explained that she was lying on him due to exhaustion, which surprised Juiz. Afterwards, Andy asked about their next plan, prompting Juiz to regain her composure and explain that Andy and Fuko were to go to Taiwan, where they would encounter Yuma Summer. Andy agreed to this plan, and Juiz called Shen to remind them of Andy's upcoming arrival and to leave them in their care, as she had a friend to visit first. In the next scene, we move to Billy and another man in a snowy location. The man commented on Rip and the others' actions, suggesting they were out of line, to which Billy responded that what mattered was the information they provided. He mentioned that Undead had evolved, especially Unluck. As he explained that Fuko possessed the power to reach God, Juiz suddenly appeared, seemingly expecting this. Juiz asked if they had any black tea, to which Billy apologized, stating he was a coffee guy. It turns out that the name of the man accompanying Billy is Tella, whom Billy asked to give them some space because Juiz might use injustice on him if he stays. Tella is described as a friend from his mercenary days, their radio man, and the first member of Under. When Billy inquired how Juiz found them, she explained that she theorized Billy could kill Yuma Winter whenever he wanted because Yuma Burn is powerful against it. She added that Billy had prioritized the Ark in the past, making her next move more predictable. He only needed to monitor Yuma Winter and use it as a hostage to disrupt their conquest for the 4 seasons, ultimately proposing a deal to them. Juiz predicted that Billy wanted to trade Yuma Winter and the Round Table for the Ark to complete their quest and claim the reward. Billy thought Juiz had come to make a deal, but she clarified she was there to talk and invite him back to the Union. She tried to convince Billy that their goals were the same, and the reward was absolutely essential for both, since all artifacts obtained as rewards are weapons created by God to defeat God. This was news to Billy, who had assumed they were fighting with tools from a super ancient civilization. He asked Juiz why she had kept this information from them and how she knew it. Juiz responded that she obtained the information by riding the Ark, but she couldn't reveal it because she was concealing the existence of the Ark. Billy pointed out that this made him more interested in the Ark, urging Juiz to get to her point. Juiz then disclosed that the Ark had reached its limit and had little energy left. It seemed capable of one more usage, but this wasn't guaranteed, and if they failed again, they would be defeated for good. Billy ensured the Ark was a one-seater and Juiz wasn't lying, to which she swore. Juiz explained that she could give Billy the Ark, but he wouldn't achieve what they had on his first try, so the only way was to work together. Billy questioned why Juiz hadn't shared this with them and whether the outcome would have been different if she hadn't shouldered that burden alone. Juiz took a deep breath and explained that there was one person who knew what she did, but tried to kill her, not for the Ark, but because he has feelings for her. She identified the person as Victor, who had attempted to stop her loop by force. She pointed that Billy's words were almost identical to what had been told to her before. She didn't have to shoulder all the burdens alone and could simply rest. Juiz explained that it appeared Victor didn't want her to suffer for his benefit. However, she clarified that it wasn't for his sake but for hers. She wanted nothing more than to see the person she loved happy and smiling. She carried everything alone out of guilt, so she decided to share everything with Billy, and her eyes were open due to his betrayal, which is why she came there. Billy seemed more qualified to use the next loop due to his copy ability compared to her injustice. However, she also mentioned that the current loop they were in was valuable because they encountered someone capable of defeating God, Unluck, and she pointed out that Foucault is their hope. She then asked if Billy would also gamble everything on Foucault and rejoin them, since she was sure Foucault would negate their cursed fate. Billy commented that Juiz's words helped explain many things, and she was right that now was not the time for them to fight. He suddenly ordered Tella to throw him the cube, where Tella questioned if he was sure about doing this before their battle with Winter, to which Billy confirmed yes, emphasizing they shouldn't underestimate the Union's first seat. Billy fed Burn the cube and explained that Juiz was always right, but that wasn't enough. Billy suddenly summoned Burn and stated they couldn't collaborate, and for him, this was the best way to kill God, with no intention of changing his mind. Juiz took out Spoil's core and also fed it a cube, while explaining that she still believed in Billy. Juiz summoned Spoil to counter Burn in what seemed like a behemoth battle. The two prepared as they followed the Union's rules. If you want to raise objections, prove your point with power. A quick commercial break. If you're wondering what Juiz and Billy fed the Yumas, it was a growth serum developed by Nico that allows any Yuma to transform into their second phase temporarily. Thanks to Nico's scientific prowess, he was able to condense it into the size of a large die. Spoil and Burn clashed in strength while Juiz charged forward. In the next scene, we saw how Spoil sided with Juiz. She ordered Spoil to assist her against Billy, certain that he would use Burn, and she would face off against that Yuma. When Spoil tried to refuse, Juiz threatened him, saying that even if a rule were to disappear from the world, it would continue to change in vain, as if trying to recoup its loss. So she had no qualms about taking the life of a minor rule like him out of the equation. Returning to the confrontation, Juiz informed Spoil that he was at a disadvantage against Burn, so he just needed to buy time for her. Spoil, irritated, immediately attacked Burn to prove that wasn't true, but his attack failed, and Burn counterattacked, punching him in the face, causing ongoing burning since the fire couldn't be spoiled. Billy ordered Tella not to interfere in the fight and took responsibility for the betrayal that occurred, saying he would handle it. Billy shot, but Juiz easily sliced through it with her speed, impressing Tella. As Juiz charged, she commented that Billy's shooting was always incredibly precise. Billy managed to dodge her attack using Unstoppable and also noted that Juiz's attack was so straightforward, making it easy for him to get behind her. Juiz used Injustice on Burn, who blocked Billy's attack for her. Billy was surprised that Yumas could also be affected by Injustice, and Spoil laughed at Burn. He teased him about the situation, suggesting that Byrne was in debt to Billy and called him a pushover. Byrne tried to reason, saying he was just returning the favor, but Spoil called him a liar, doubting he would want to fight a concept type, Yuma, just to repay a favor. Afterward, Spoil vented his irritation at concept types, feeling belittled by them as a phenomenon type Yuma. They think they are superior because they are favored by God. Byrne was even willing to be ordered around by a vessel for a favor, and Spoil also wondered if there might be another reason for his actions, questioning whether Byrne was being threatened like him. Suddenly, Byrne responded with a punch to Spoil's face and launched an attack into the sky. This caused a part of the sky to clear, puzzling Juiz. She asked what Byrne had said to Spoil, who explained that Byrne expressed a desire to meet their maker at least once. Juiz inquired about the meaning of this, to which Spoil responded that he didn't know because they don't have any childhood memories, recalling only in order to use their rules to torment humanity. Spoil prepared to attack and aimed his decay beam at Billy, thinking he could hit him with the attack once Billy used Unstoppable. However, Billy managed to dodge the attack, which hit the ground, prompting Billy to order Tella to mount Byrne as their standing ground was being destroyed by Spoil, causing an avalanche. Juiz pointed out that no matter how fast Billy was, without proper footing, he couldn't change direction. Spoil launched another attack, hitting Billy's hand, which made Tella worry of his captain. Afterward, Juiz and the others descended to the ground, and as she walked towards Billy, she asked why he didn't use Injustice to dodge and why he wasn't fighting seriously. Juiz was shown crying over the situation while insisting Billy answer her questions. She wondered if he really betrayed them. Billy responded and admitted that he had indeed betrayed them, and that had been his plan from the beginning. He explained that ever since he met Juiz and the others, he had never trusted them. They were merely the ammunition he needed to defeat God, nothing more, nothing less. When Undead Unluck joined them, his requirements were fulfilled. He thanked the two, confessing that it was because of them he was able to move forward. He said his view of justice has never aligned with the unions, while Juiz, on the other hand, dismissed his words because he wasn't giving his all. He stated that enough was enough, and he would forcibly bring Billy back to the union and make him talk. Since Billy still possessed the undead ability, he mentioned he would just slice off his head and bring it back. Juiz charged again, thinking this would end it. She decided that if Billy had betrayed them due to his own vision of justice, she would use her injustice on him to either force Billy to take his own life or attack his comrade, and then she would strike. As Juiz approached Billy, she immediately used injustice to control his attack. When Juiz's attack connected, the others present were shocked by the outcome. The reason for their shock was revealed to be that Juiz's right hand had been sliced. Juiz wondered how that happened since she had activated her injustice. Billy explained to her, while pointing a gun at her, that the reason he hadn't used injustice wasn't that he was holding back. Rather, it was because he just couldn't use it. This was because Juiz believed in him. As Billy was about to shoot Juiz, he called out to Yuma move, which immediately teleported Juiz and Spoil back to their base. Nico and the others were shocked to see Juiz in her condition and quickly ordered to stop the bleeding from her arm. Realizing from her wounds that she had gone to confront Billy alone, Juiz asked Nico not to tell the others. Nico became angry with her, questioning what kind of fool she was for still covering for Billy even after losing her arm because of him. Juiz explained that although the Under was their enemy, Billy was different. The scene shifts back to Billy, where Tella asked if he would be okay, to which he agreed and inquired about the whereabouts of Unluck, learning they were heading to Yuma Summer. Billy confirmed if Feng was the one assigned to go to Summer, and Tella confirmed he went alone. Billy then contacted Feng through Tella, explaining that Feng would also benefit from their plan, so he sought his assistance. Their plan was to take Fuko by any means necessary. In the following scene, we are shown a flashback of Shen, where he is protecting his sister from bullies. They demanded money from them, claiming their clothes were dirted, to which Shen, with a poker face, stated that the bully should leave the money there and go away. Suddenly, Shen beats up the men, instilling fear in them, and they leave their money behind. When his sister was about to pick up the money, he stopped her and picked it up himself, explaining that this was not the right thing for May to do. Mei tearfully told him that what he was doing was dangerous and pleaded with him to stop, even arguing that they did not need food or clothes. But Shen reassured her not to worry, proclaiming that he was the strongest person in the world. After this, we return to the present where Shen has just defeated some of Summer's juniors. He wonders why he remembered that memory, thinking it might be because of Yuma Summer. As one of the juniors was about to attack Shen, Mui arrives and manages to slash the monster. Shen apologizes for being distracted earlier and immediately becomes skeptical upon seeing Mui's artifact. Mui tries to make excuses, but Shen scolds her for using a new artifact again. She argues that Juiz had agreed, to which Shen counters that he did not give his consent. Shen repeatedly warns about the dangers of using multiple artifacts, asking Mui how many she had used, to which she reluctantly admits to 8, frustrating Shen further. Shen is irritated with Juiz for allowing Mui to use the artifact, but Mui quickly confesses that it was her fault for not following rules because the quest was special to her. She has always been a bystander, but since the quest was open to everyone, she finally has a chance to join Shen and protect her master. She tries to convince Shen to let her help using the power of the artifacts, but Shen refuses and insists on their penalty game. You know what? Shen then questions Mui using untruth about the look she gave him, to which she responds it was a look of contempt, prompting Shen to ask why. Mui tearfully explains it's because of his self-indulgent and messy lifestyle. Shen, on the verge of tears, asks again if all that was true, and Mui agrees. Andy and Fuko arrive amidst their personal penalty game. Shen asks Mui how it feels to say things she doesn't mean, to which, while crying, he tells Mui to reflect on her actions, saying that despite knowing the opposite was meant, the words still hurt him. When Fuko asks Mui if she's okay, Mui brightens up, thrilled that they are safe and that they've caught Autumn. Fuko then inquires why they are kneeling on the ground, and Mui explains it's a form of punishment using Shen's untruth, forcing her to say the polar opposite of what she thinks. Fuko then wondered if Shen's feelings were actually more hurt by this situation. She also realized that while Mui was affected by the untruth, Billy was not, prompting both of them to ponder on this. While the two women were gossiping, Andy overheard their conversation and commented that Shen had not yet informed Mui about the requirements for his powers to work. This realization made Shen aware that Andy knew, prompting Andy to explain that he noticed it during their fight against Spoil. After this, Shen handed over documents to Andy containing information about Summer. Yuma Summer is described as a small, spherical Yuma that appeared in places with abundant gunpowder and fuel, witnessed by many. It was confirmed to grow by consuming gunpowder or similar substances. Since its discovery, it was assumed to be hiding in a place that matches its core shape. Their mission was to find and destroy all sub-bodies in the weakened main body. Shen also informed that Top was actively searching for the core, leading Andy to question Shen's actions. Shen, slightly irritated, replied that he was doing his part in the operation. Shen pointed out a building behind them, explaining it contained a lot of gunpowder and fireworks tucked away for a New Year's fireworks show. Andy was puzzled by the early celebration, to which Shen explained they altered the people's memories to advance the supply, a tactic to bait Summer. Shen then commented that Andy seemed stronger and was nearing Victor's strength, expressing interest in a duel. Andy urged Shen to focus on the quest, threatening to report him to Juiz if he didn't. Suddenly, a giant monster appeared in front of them. Andy asked if this was Summer's main body, but Shen clarified it was not. The location was just a unique food source for it. Shen remarked on the perfect timing, puzzling Andy. Shen then used untruth on Andy to gauge his improvement, which annoyed Andy. Andy then employed Deep Crimson Crescent Moon against the monster, defeating it easily. In a nearby building, Feng was observed watching them, impressed by Andy's attack. The monster turned into fireworks after being defeated, leaving Shen amazed by the spectacle. Confidently, Andy declared the start of their quest to neutralize Yuma Summer. In the next scene, we return to the past of Shen and his sister, Mei. Shen showed a flyer about a martial arts tournament and expressed his desire to participate in order to win a large cash prize, so they could leave their current living situation. Mei mentioned she was fine with where they were and questioned if Shen realized he would be fighting adults. Shen retorted that he regularly outmatched adults, and whether it involved martial arts or not, it was just a fight, so he wouldn't be defeated. On the tournament day, Shen unexpectedly lost to a martial arts practitioner named Luo, who commented that Shen's punches were lacking. On the sidelines, an old man, who noticed Shen's talent, invited him to learn his unnamed style. It turned out that the man was Luo's master, who questioned if he was thinking clearly by taking on Shen, a mere street fighter. The master pointed out Shen's eyes, which showed a desire to grow stronger, dubbing them the eyes of the dragon. Fast forward to the present, and he warned Shen that if he tried something like that again, he would be the one getting cut in half. Shen felt jealous because Andy had grown so strong. So Andy explained he had relived 140 years of his past, which Shen also wanted to experience. Shen became sad upon realizing he couldn't do the same, and Andy quickly changed the subject by asking about what he had cut earlier, mentioning the needed gunpowder in the building to make Yuma's summer grow. While upset with Andy, Shen agreed and explained that someone must be supplying gunpowder to Summer to enlarge it, with Andy suspecting Under was behind it. Suddenly, a staff fell from the sky, with Yuma Summer's sub-bodies riding it and consuming cubes. Andy asked if Shen saw who threw it, and he said no. Feng then appeared, and upon transforming the two beasts, immediately sent them towards the building. Andy noticed right away, and was about to instruct Shen on what to do when Shen, along with Mui, quickly followed Summer. Shen shouted that the two Yumas seemed stronger, so he would leave the small man downstairs to Andy, irritating him and making him comment that it was no wonder Juiz left him in charge. Feng called them amateurs and revealed a set of prayer beads. Suddenly, Jiashir appeared, revealing the prayer beads to be an artifact known as the Game of Death. Andy prepared to fight, and seeing this, Shen firmly told Mui to hold on to him. He jumped down, causing Andy to be annoyed with him for leaving Summer behind. Shen then instructed his Kinto-1 Cloud to take Andy and Fuko to Summer. Andy was annoyed, while Shen was thrilled at the prospect of fighting deceased martial arts masters, even calling that day a lucky day. The Jiashir immediately rushed at him, and Shen was excited to test his strength against these masters from the past. He used his untruth technique on them, easily overpowering them. One of the Jiashir commented in amazement at the power of his punches, which puzzled Shen. Mui watched Shen in awe, but she wondered if his strength was still not enough to become the strongest in all creation. Shen laid one of the Jiashir down and prayed over it while asking Feng about the function of his artifact, prompting Feng to explain that it allowed him to summon anyone he had killed within the bead and command them. Shen realized that one of his opponents was a senior from his school whom he had never beaten before. Feng thought Shen was harboring resentment. They clashed with their staffs, and Shen corrected Feng, stating it was a matter of survival of the fittest, so he didn't care about the past grievances and suggested they just fight. Feng appreciated Shen's reaction. In the following scene, we delve into Shen's past where he began training under Luo's master in exchange for 3 things. First, the master would enroll his sister to a school. Second, he would provide them with a place to sleep. And third, he would feed them 3 times a day. Having fulfilled these conditions, Shen agreed to be taught by the master. Luo remarked that the money he won from the tournament was being used for his sister's education, prompting Shen to express his gratitude. The master clarified that these terms were in exchange for the free reign he would get, and from that day on, Shen had to endure the training and adhere to all his terms. Shen, with a smile, said that was no problem for him, and he vowed to surpass his master and become the strongest in all creation, asking the master not to die until he could repay his kindness, to which the master agreed. It turns out the master's name at that time was Feng, which is the same as the undermember he is currently fighting. Returning to their showdown, the battle between them began to intensify. Shen immediately used untruth on Feng. It was explained that Shen's untruth ability negates the truth behind the actions of whoever he is observing. Shen constantly assesses which actions would be beneficial to reverse for him. However, this is not effective against quick-thinking opponents, and Shen observed that the more experienced and quicker thinking the opponent, the harder it is for him to gauge their timing. Thus, only people like Juiz, Nico, or Andy In other words, seasoned veterans can penetrate his untruth. As Shen engaged in the fight, he noticed his opponent's fighting style was very similar to someone he had been searching for a long time. The opponent was much younger, but given the fighting style, there was surely a connection. He commanded him to reveal what he knew and used untruth. Feng's roundhouse kick was reversed, forcing him to resort to using the Jinjiao step in, which amazed Shen. Suddenly, Shen lost sight of his opponent, and Mui, noticing Feng appearing from above, quickly informed Shen. Feng's use of a corpse for protection reminded Shen of someone he knew, to which Feng commented that it seemed Shen was deceived by his appearance and voice. Before the corpse fell, Shen punched it, and Feng swiftly spun in the air. Feng positioned himself and commented that his next move might remind Shen of something. Shen recognized the move, and soon, Feng executed the Hakai Zanko 8-cycle mountain strike. Suddenly, we are taken back to Shen's past where Mei was visibly bruised, causing him concern. He realized the injuries were from a fight and questioned if the students from her school were responsible. Shen was irritated with Luo for thinking their school was free of such people, so Luo explained that such individuals could be found anywhere. Shen retorted, questioning the point of sending Mei there. Mei admitted that she tried to rescue a friend who was being bullied, attempting to emulate how her brother had saved her. She tried to use the techniques Shen used, but since the bullies were boys, she couldn't defeat them, and their teacher eventually stopped the fight. Feng commented that it seemed Mei's fight wasn't over, suggesting she should just get a knife and stab the bullies, which annoyed Shen with his suggestions. In the next scene, Shen took Mei to a place and began teaching her martial arts. He taught her the Tetsuzanko, the basic version of Feng's special move, which only required Mei to have a strong back. Though it was difficult, once Mei mastered it, she would be able to defend herself against the bullies. Mei thought Shen had said he wouldn't teach her such things, to which Shen agreed. However, since he couldn't accompany Mei to school to protect her, mastering this move would be like having him by her side. This way, Mei would have nothing to fear at school. In the following scene, Shen was amazed that Mei quickly mastered the Tetsuzanko he was teaching. Meanwhile, Luo tried to stop Feng because Feng wanted the siblings to fight to the death, but Feng ended up killing Luo, thereby acquiring Luo's jiashi. Back in the present, as Feng removed his shawl, it was revealed that he was indeed Shen's master, who had become younger. He commented that Shen needed to repay him for raising him, and it appeared Shen had already surpassed him. Anger was visible on Shen's face as he endured the pain of Feng's special move. We are shown a conversation between Shen and Mui in the past, where Mui asks why Shen wants to become the strongest in all creation. Shen replied, explaining that there's an old man he wants to kill, his teacher, who is responsible for the death of his younger sister. Back in the present, Mui realizes that Feng is the person Shen referred to back then. Shen is puzzled by Feng's rejuvenation. Feng attacks again, explaining he restored his youth to become stronger. Feng mockingly asked why Shen isn't using his ability, noting that it was effective. Recall, Shen's untruth ability only works when he is fond of his target. Feng noticed that Shen was using his negator ability earlier and made a realization. On the day of Shen's sister's death, Feng pondered why, despite everything his sister went through to live with Shen, she let go of Shen's hand, but now he understands. It wasn't just that his sister let go, it was Shen who made her let go. Feng accused Shen of killing his own sister with his eyes, stating this as the truth of the situation. Mui immediately rushed to try and help Shen but was easily stopped by Feng. Feng glanced at Mui and asked Shen if she was his substitute sister. Shen tried to stop Feng from involving Mui, but Feng didn't act on it, believing Shen grows stronger when faced with despair. He pointed out the deaths of their parents and his sister, stating that the despair of death strengthened Shen. He called his Kakuto One Cloud and took Mui away, contemplating how much stronger Shen's grief over Mui's potential death could make him. Meanwhile, Andy and Fuko managed to take down one of Summer's sub-bodies that had climbed up the building. They encountered Feng, who was with Summer's core. They noticed he was holding Mui, and Feng recognized Andy, remembering he was the one who killed Rip. Feng thanked Andy because by killing Rip, he allowed him to acquire the time control artifact under the condition that he would restore Rip. By reverting Rip by 15 years, he himself became 150 years younger. Fuko was shocked by his age, while Andy asked him what his goal was and why he was interfering with their quest. Feng replied that he wanted to fight strong individuals in their growth phase because he was interested in their fully developed forms. Andy explained that if they didn't complete their mission, Ragnarok would occur, leaving them no time for foolishness. Feng grinned at the idea of fighting God if that happened, which annoyed Andy with his troublemaking attitude. Fuko became angry and demanded to know what Feng planned to do with Mui, insisting he return her. Feng explained he was using her to further strengthen his student, Shen. He added that the last time he saw strength in Shen that struck fear in his heart was when Shen lost his sister, so he planned to recreate that situation to surpass that level of strength. Fuko was furious that Feng would kill Mui just for that. As Summer released bombs, Shen declared he would become the strongest in all creation. He said he would raise and kill Shen and Summer, suggesting they no longer need to worry about their quest, as nothing would stop his conquest. When the bombs exploded, Andy charged at Feng but was easily repelled. Thinking his attack was over, Feng was caught off guard by Andy's 10-twist vortex fist, which sent Feng flying. Andy called Feng insane if he thought he could attack their group and expect them not to fight back, while Fuko assured Mui they would come for her. Feng's face showed excitement, and he was impressed by Andy's attack. Shen was furious with Feng's method of raising the powerful only to kill them to test his own strength. Because of this, Shen decided that even if it cost him his life, he needed to negate Feng's strength. A pouch labeled "Life" was shown. On Summer's body, Feng commented that Andy's attack was amusing because, in his 170 years of life, he had never seen such a technique. Feng hoped for a face-off, while Andy is expressing his disappointment because his earlier attack was meant to be lethal. The injured Mui then spoke up, urging Andy and the others to run away because even Shen couldn't defeat Feng, pointing out that he was a martial arts master, and no matter how strong they were, they couldn't beat him. When Fuko was about to rush to save Mui, Andy stopped her, agreeing with Mui that their opponent was strong and they needed to defeat Feng first. Our best duo charged in, and Fuko prepared to use her Unluck, which Andy needed. While charging, Andy considered that if Feng was a member of Under, he must also be a negator, so he decided to find out what kind. He was prepared to die as many times as needed to discover it. He used the Deep Crimson Crescent Moon technique, but Feng easily blocked it with his staff that transformed into nunchucks. Fuko was shocked at this, while Feng expressed his desire to fight the spiral fist that Andy used earlier. He threw away both his and Andy's weapons, deeming the use of weapons as uncouth, and wished to fight Andy with their fists. Therefore, Andy prepared and used his bloody arts, with Feng challenging him to come at him. Andy attacked swiftly with his vortex fists, but Feng effortlessly blocked them all with one hand. Andy couldn't understand why his hits weren't landing even when using his blood spurts to increase his speed. Through this, he tested and realized that Feng wasn't an external targeter type like Shen, as there was no change in his will or movements. Feng asked if Andy had any fight left in him, and then stomped his foot heavily. Andy suddenly couldn't move, and Feng noticed that he was being analyzed during the fight. Feng pointed out that Andy's movements were due to his undead nature, but to him, it was mere arrogance. Feng dislocated Andy's shoulders, leaving him unable to move them. Feng then decided to study the rules of Andy's undead regeneration. He pointed out that he only negated things directly linked to death, like bleeding and aging. Considering the risk of even a minor cut leading to issues like tetanus, Feng hypothesized that Andy's regeneration made sense. He theorized that if Andy suffered injuries that weren't death-related, like dislocation, his ability wouldn't work. It seemed Feng's thinking was correct because Andy couldn't move his hands, so he resorted to using his feet. Andy attempted to attack Shen with a vortex shot, but Feng easily blocked it while explaining that he had figured out that if he anticipated the attack accordingly, it would become just a regular attack. Andy had a realization that left him in disbelief. Feng had not yet used his negator ability on him, and his strength was purely technical. Feng hit Andy with a technique called Kaboku, solidly striking his body and sending him flying. Feng was impressed that Andy withstood his attack. He explained that his earlier attack should have also hit Fuko, but Andy used his regenerative ability to contain the damage internally. Nevertheless, Feng considered it a shame because if Andy had taken his talent and studied martial arts, he would have been closer to becoming the strongest. Therefore, Feng asked Andy if he wanted to learn his Shin Hakyoka style, to which Andy immediately declined, clarifying that he had no interest in being the strongest of all. Feng's eyes narrowed at Andy's response, and he attacked again, calling Andy a coward. He used the Zesho Hohu lashing step cannon, which pierced Andy's body. Feng believed that, like Shen, Andy allowed himself to be distracted by other matters, steering away from the path to becoming the strongest. Hence, he would provide Andy with a motive by threatening to kill Fuko. Feng claimed that if that happened, Andy would follow in Shen's footsteps, using that negligence to fuel his anger towards Feng and his pursuit of strength, only to die by Feng's hands. After that, it would become clear that Feng was the strongest in all creation. While Feng was still explaining his intentions, Andy spoke up, asserting that even if Feng became stronger on his own, it would be in vain. For Andy, protecting Fuko and everything important to her was his goal. If his strength was sufficient for that purpose, he was content. Shen then arrived on the scene atop his Kinto-un cloud, and Andy announced the arrival of Feng's creation, the so-called foolish pupil summoned by a stroke of unluck. Shen used his Nyo Kinko staff to attack Feng, allowing it to pass through Andy's body. Andy commented that no matter what Feng did, two people together were stronger than one alone. In the next scene, we are shown a conversation between Andy and Shen following their quest to capture spoil. Andy thanks Shen, who responds with curiosity, wondering what the thanks are for. He assumes Andy might be referring to something related to Victor, but clarifies that initiating those events was a matter of his personal desire. Andy explains that he's grateful because Shen protected Fuko. He's wanted to thank Shen for a while because he heard it was Shen who recommended them to Juiz, and aside from her, Shen is one of the reasons why Fuko is still alive. Shen opens up, sharing that his desire to become stronger is driven by his wish to kill someone, and he will do anything to achieve that. He admits to sacrificing Void and Genus simply to challenge the fabled god of war within Andy to grow stronger. Andy tells him that the reasons for Shen's actions don't matter. What's important is that they have reconciled and Shen protected both of them. Andy feels indebted to Shen and assures him that if anything happens, he will be there to help. Back in the present, they manage to push back against Feng. Andy updates Shen on the situation, to which Shen responds that he already knows and apologizes to Andy for acting recklessly. Feng enjoys the turn of events, seeing Shen's vigor to defeat him. As the two martial artists clash, Shen is no match for his master. Andy tries to calm Shen down, suggesting they work together to defeat Feng because he can't do it alone. Shen disagrees, asking Andy not to interfere as this is his battle to fight. Andy is immobilized because Shen has used untruth on him, and he quickly orders Shen to deactivate it. Shen explains that his survival has been fueled by his goal to kill Feng and asks them not to intervene. Andy manages to move again and hits Shen on the head to bring him back to his senses. He calms Shen down, pointing out that killing Feng is not the most important thing Shen needs to do at that time, but rather to protect Mui. Andy does not say that Shen should not seek revenge, but even if he does, it won't bring his sister back. What Shen needs to do is protect what's important to him at present, including all of them. Because when they are together, they can protect anything. Shen took a deep breath, but Feng suddenly charged at them. Shen asked Andy if his moves had worked, to which Andy replied no, leading Shen to sarcastically state that they were then hopeless. The two managed to dodge Feng's attack, and Andy said that this was why he needed Shen. They would use their abilities together. They did so immediately, but due to Feng's strength, it seemed they still couldn't land an attack. Just when Feng thought he had anticipated Andy's movements, he did not expect to receive a solid punch from him. Thanks to their teamwork, they managed to send the martial arts master flying. Feng was amused by this and pointed out that they would still be stronger compared to what they were if they lost what was most important to them. Feng declared it was time for them to experience despair to reach a higher level of strength. Feng prepared to attack with the Zuishin Tekken Rod, aiming it at Fuko and Mui. His staff was enveloped in flames as he used the Zuishin Tekken Rod, Rewimba Fire Dragon Assault. The attack bypassed Shen and Andy, taking them by surprise. Andy tried to grab the attack but couldn't reach it in time. As the attack was about to hit, Shen was shown bloodied, saying that Andy was right. When they are together, they can protect anything. It was shown that Andy and Shen managed to intercept the attack, but they used their bodies to stop it. Due to the deadly attack Shen received, all Mui could do was cry. Soon after, Shen collapsed due to the damage he sustained, further worrying Mui, Fuko, and Andy. Feng called Shen too fragile, suggesting he needed to die and try life again. Andy quickly charged towards Feng, while pointing out that it seemed there was something Andy couldn't do. Andy used his Radius Bone Pile move, and suddenly, another attack emerged from the ground. Anger was evident in Andy's eyes as he wished for Feng's death, to which Feng merely responded that they were free to try. Fuko fired a shot, but Feng managed to stop it with just his toe fingers. He reiterated that despair strengthens a person. Meanwhile, Shen lay on the ground with a large hole in his body. Suddenly, Mei appeared beside Shen, commenting on the goodness of Shen's companions. Shen couldn't believe his eyes, thinking it was an illusion, but nonetheless, he happily embraced his sister. Shen apologized to Mei, blaming himself for her death. He regretted aiming to become stronger in the past and teaching Mei Tetsuzenko. Mei hugged him back, explaining how happy she was when he taught her that and how he always protected her. She thought that by learning it, Shen wouldn't need to spend his life just for her. She didn't realize she had a talent for it, and Feng used her to fight against Shen. As a result, Feng dropped the weaker of the two, Mei. At that time, Shen became a negator, which caused her to let go of him. Tearfully, Shen said he had wanted to apologize to Mei since then, and he would go to her wherever she was. Mei disagreed, saying Shen still had things to protect in this world, especially Mui. Mei explained that after Shen was defeated by Feng, he wanted to become stronger to avenge her death, and as a result, he followed the same path Feng had taken. Engaging in constant battles and getting hurt in the process, Shen eventually began to see other people only as strong or weak. It was during these times that he met Mui, siblings whose parents were killed by a Yuma. At first, he couldn't leave them because their situation was so similar to his and Mei's. However, little by little, step by step, Mui helped heal his heart. Mei excitedly asked what it feels like to be in love, to which Shen replied that he doesn't deserve to be in love, especially now that he's dead. Mei countered that this isn't true and that he needs to live and be happy for her, as well as for himself. Just as he wishes for Mei to be happy, she wishes the same for him. Mei pointed out that there is still a way to win, so Shen must not give up yet. Before returning to heaven, Mei reminded her brother that she's eager to be with him again, but it seems she has to wait a bit longer. She wished Shen good luck, hoping he stays good and cool, the brother she loves so much. After this, Shen regained consciousness and asked Mui to kill him. Mui was puzzled by Shen's request, but Shen explained that there was no time left. He also instructed Andy to retrieve the Game of Death artifact from Feng and give it to Mui. Andy immediately agreed, and he, along with Fuko, rushed to get it. Still confused, Mui listened as Shen explained that he would be killed while holding the prayer beads to become his Jiangshi, because those beads have the power to turn those killed by their owner into Jiangshi. Mui objected, pointing out that Shen would lose his free will if she did that to her master, as seen with Feng's Jiangshi. She added that it wasn't even clear if killing Shen would turn him into a Jiangshi. As an alternative to Shen's idea, Mui suggested they look for a way to heal his wound instead, mentioning she had many artifacts for that purpose. Mui brought out a bag labeled Life and took out pills, which were restorative artifacts made from her own life force. Shen explained that those only work if digested, and given his condition, he couldn't do that. She then considered warping back to their base to visit Nico, but Shen mentioned that Yuma's move was too fickle to follow orders. Eventually, Mui broke down, questioning why Shen saved her. Since being taken in by Shen, she felt like a burden and hadn't done anything to repay Shen. This made Shen think, recalling a conversation with Andy about his negator ability. He asked Mui what she thought was the activation requirement for his untruth, to which Mui speculated it activates when Shen sees a strong person he wants to fight. Shen agreed and explained that initially, he thought the same. However, it wasn't like that. He shared that he had lived in a small world that only included himself, his murdered sister, and the old man who killed her. Those three elements were all that his world consisted of, but that was before Mui entered his life. He mentioned that Mui helped her realize for the very first time that the activation requirement for untruth was to be fond of the person in front of him. Shen pointed out that Mui was the first person he liked without considering their strength or weakness. That's why he needed Mui to let him protect her a little longer. Fuko and Andy managed to retrieve the artifact, and Fuko quickly approached them to hand it over. Fuko threw the prayer beads, but unfortunately, Feng noticed her wide open and used his Zuishin Tekken Rod, Riwenbu Fire Dragon Assault, to kill her, aiming to awaken Andy's potential. When Mui caught the artifact, she immediately charged at Shen with a sword in hand. She stabbed Shen with it, stating that no matter how Shen's appearance or behavior changed, she would continue to love him until she dies. Feng's attack hit them strongly, leading him to believe that Andy's true power would soon be awakened because he killed Fuko. However, he was shocked when the now Jiangshi Shen stopped the attack, commenting on how peculiar it felt to die and come back to life. But he was sure that now, he was the strongest he had ever been. Shen was revived, which left Mui astonished, prompting her to inquire about how her master was feeling. She questioned whether the artifact had induced any unusual sensations, any pain, or if he still remembered her. She asked if he could recall the day they first met, to which Shen joyfully responded that it was 10 years ago on June 1st, and he had not forgotten it. Mui cried tears of joy, so Shen reassures her that it's still him. The only change now was that his skin had turned somewhat blue. Shen added that she now instinctively protects his master whenever she was in danger, and he can't move on his own unless commanded by his master. Mui was shocked and apologized to her master, whereupon Shen was also surprised but explained that he was mostly the same as before. Feng irritably stated that Shen should have just accepted death like a real man, while Andy praised Mui's actions. He said he would be cursed if Shen died before he could repay his debt of gratitude to him. As long as they had untruth, Andy was confident they could defeat Feng. Andy shouted, explaining they were out of time, so they should prepare to defeat their enemy. The four of them charged at Feng, who smiled, explaining that it seemed he could buy time for Yuma Summer to reach its phase 2. Feng also prepared, stating that no matter how hard they tried, a dragon could not be defeated by many weak beings. Andy realized that Feng had figured out the vision requirement to activate Shen's untruth. Mui instructed Shen to follow up on her attack, and she immediately used the Bashofan artifact to open Feng's defenses. Feng noticed it was an artifact to remove Shen's weakness, which impressed him. Andy then instructed Shen to use untruth on him, to which Shen agreed. However, unexpectedly, they were easily hit by Feng. With a swing of his staff, Feng sent both flying, causing Fuko and Mui to worry. Feng arrogantly questioned if Shen could no longer use his tricks. The two discussed, and Shen realized that technically, since he had died, he no longer possessed the untruth ability. Fuko remembered it was explained that a negator ability will transfer to another person if the current holder of the negator ability died. But Fuko also noticed that the power of untruth had stopped both Andy and Shen, indicating someone must have used it earlier. Suddenly, Fuko and Andy noticed something about Mui, and turning towards her, they felt something unbelievable while staring at Mui. Then, Summer's body began to crack and started transforming. It seemed to be shedding its shell, whereupon Feng mentioned that they were running out of time. Feng grinned, seemingly pleased because he could now test his strength against one of the 4 great Yumas in its strongest form. Andy and Shen stood up again and signaled to each other that they had a plan. Feng, observing their confidence, suspected they believed they could defeat him with their next attack. As Feng approached, he shouted that their chance to win was gone without untruth. Andy prepared to use their combo attack, the Unluck Bullet, with Fuko, while Shen readied his Hakai Zenko. As Feng screamed that they would never win, Mui called out to him. Turning towards her, Feng found himself unable to move, and Mui thanked him, saying his egotistical strength was the reason she could now take on her master's burden. Mui pointed out that for Shen, she herself would negate Feng. It turned out Feng couldn't move because the untruth ability was transferred to Mui, and she had used untruth on him. Shen and Andy's attacks hit Feng, sending the martial arts master flying. Shen commented that Feng might be the strongest martial arts master in the world, but pointed out that was all there was to Feng. Feng smiled as he endured the pain from the attacks he received. Feng's damage was visible, and he seemed unable to stand properly. While claiming that Shen had grown stronger due to hatred, Feng was solidly punched in the face. Feng was sent flying back again, surprised that he had caught the attack and advanced. He argued that the effect of untruth should be the same even when transferred to another user. When Fuko also rushed to help, Andy stopped her, explaining that Shen and Mui could handle it. Feng noted that during their earlier fight, Shen could only control the direction of his attacks, but now he could also control his leg movements. Shen said it was because Feng was retreating. Feng was retreating because he was afraid of them, and Mui was negating it. When Shen charged, Feng couldn't dodge his attack. As Feng bled, he commented that his fear might be because his body realized Shen was using their hatred to overcome him, signaling it was time. If he defeated Shen, he would become the strongest in all creation. Feng charged, and Shen explained that it wasn't hatred but something very simple in retrospect. It wasn't despair or hatred that made him stronger, but love, which saved him from everything, and that was the truth. Shen rapidly punched the charging Feng, thanking him. Feng's killing him made him realize that. Soon after, Feng collapsed, but he commented that even if they joined forces to defeat him repeatedly, they would just lose to stronger opponents. They had strayed from the path of individual strength to become the strongest, meaning they would never grow stronger than they were now. He added that they should understand the importance of absolute individual strength the most because they were trying to defeat God. Finally, Yuma Summer's transformation was complete, and it had reached its phase 2. Shen said it would be okay because they had many strong allies. Top arrived carrying Chikara, with Tatiana following them. Top said their chances were better now that they had Chikara, a restrainer type, with them. Andy and Fuko were thrilled to see them. While Fuko was confident they were now stronger with more of them present, Apocalypse, imprisoned by Topside, laughed at her, saying their end was near because Summer had reached its second phase. Fuko and the others were shocked to see Apocalypse there and asked why. Top explained that Juiz had ordered him to bring Apocalypse because it was safer. Andy realized that made sense, considering if their enemy, like Yuma Move, had a warp ability, it could be easily stolen. They questioned what Apocalypse meant by saying their end was near, to which Apocalypse explained it was because none of them could defeat Summer. Now that it was in its second form, none of them could destroy its core, so their quest was as good as failed, and Ragnarok was imminent. He added that Summer had the highest attack power among all the 4 seasons Yumas, and hoped they would enjoy watching their world crumble. Top asked what he meant by saying they couldn't defeat it, to which Apocalypse refused to say. Soon after, thanks to Mui's untruth, Apocalypse revealed how to defeat Summer, explaining that the scales on Summer's stomach were its core, and unless all were destroyed simultaneously, it would just regenerate. Apocalypse was shocked, and Top was also surprised when he disclosed the secret. Shen was amazed and quickly covered Mui's eyes. Andy heard this and praised Mui and Shen. Fuko asked what they would do now. Destroy all the scales of that giant? Shen told her not to worry. They could do it together. Top was taken aback by Shen's new appearance. Andy agreed with Shen's statement and explained that now, together as Undead, Unluck, Unstoppable, Unmove, Untouchable, Untruth, and a juncture, he was sure they could defeat Yuma Summer. In the next scene, we return to a memory of Shen and Feng, where Shen wants to go to the fireworks festival in the village tonight and wishes to watch it. However, Feng insisted they sleep instead, claiming that their bodies wouldn't grow if they didn't rest. Shen countered, questioning what harm there could be in watching the fireworks together. Before long, Feng agrees to what Shen wants. After this flashback, we return to the present, where our group of friends is preparing to simultaneously destroy the scales on Yuma Summer's belly to defeat it. Now that they know its secret, Andy confidently declares the task should be easy and asks Fuko to grant him unluck. Chikara and Top are questioned about their ability to execute his plan, to which they agree, prompting him to explain that he needs them to position themselves where Chikara can see all of Summer's body. Shen is asked for information about the powers of his Nyobo staff, which he explains can extend, bend, and enlarge. However, he notes that using it in larger operations places a significant strain on the user, thus it has its limitations. Mui shouts that she will also help to double the output they can achieve with Shen's efforts. Andy is pleased by this, while Fuko decides to grant Andy unluck by kissing him. Andy tells Tatiana that she is their closer, and since all civilians have evacuated, she can go all out. As our heroes proceed with their plan, Apocalypse merely laughs, believing that knowing Summer's weakness will not make a difference, as none of them have defeated that Yuma in any of the loops that have occurred. Andy signals the group to begin their plan, and they quickly charge towards Summer. Shen and Mui head towards Summer's face, attacking it to force its mouth open. Once Summer's mouth is opened, they insert the enlarged Nyobo staff, made unbreakable, to prevent proper movement. Chikara instructs Top to take him to another building, to which Top immediately agrees. Using his unstoppable ability, Top swiftly transports Chikara to the specified building. Following this, Mui bends the staff, surprising Apocalypse. This forces Summer to contort its body. Before long, Chikara reached the building and immediately activated his unmove ability to immobilize Summer. He informed Andy that they had completed that step and instructed Shen and the others to distance themselves from the Yuma. When Andy inquired if they were within Chikara's line of sight, he explained that, thanks to the goggles created by Nico, he could only see Summer's silhouette. Fuko remarked that they all seemed to have grown stronger, a sentiment Andy agreed with. He elaborated that people reach their strongest when they risk their lives for others. Andy then used Unluck Dead Road, projecting a vast amount of his blood onto Summer's belly. Fuko was surprised to learn that Andy could imbue his blood with Unluck, to which Andy confirmed, explaining that he could do so as long as he believed it was possible. He reminded Fuko that she had taught him this, to which she happily agreed. Suddenly, Tatiana arrived, advising them to stop flirting while in free fall. Now that Andy had coated all the scales with his Unluck-infused blood, it was time for Tatiana's attack, aimed at striking Summer's core. Tatiana activated her untouchable ability, releasing a powerful aura that shattered Summer's scales simultaneously. Chikara, Top, Andy, and Fuko were all amazed by this. Meanwhile, Shen was carrying Feng's body, which puzzled Mui. Shen explained he was doing this because he had questions for his master. He couldn't easily forgive him for killing his little sister and fellow disciple. However, before addressing this, Shen decided to ask Feng if he remembered the day of the fireworks festival, when they all sat on the rooftop one summer night, watching the fireworks in the sky together. He shared that on that day, he truly felt, and believed May felt the same, what it was like to be part of a family. He asked Feng to share his thoughts from those times. Feng responded by calling Shen a fool and explained that they were merely his sustenance to grow stronger. Nothing more, nothing less. He had never considered any of them his family. Shen understood, and as they watched Yuma's summer turn into fireworks, he remarked that it seemed this was indeed the truth. The truth that emerged from untruth. After the battle, Andy reported to Juiz that they had defeated Yuma's summer and captured a member of the Under. Juiz praised them and mentioned she would send someone there. Andy noticed her voice was weakening, so Juiz told him not to worry about it, and instead asked if he noticed any changes. Tatiana realized what Juiz meant. The concept of summer no longer existed in their world. Apocalypse laughed again, prompting Top to ask why. Soon, snow began to fall unexpectedly, and the temperature dropped sharply. Fuko wondered why a blizzard had suddenly started, while Andy suspected something was amiss. Apocalypse explained their pride in defeating summer would now become their downfall, refusing to tell them why. However, thanks to Mui's untruth, Apocalypse revealed that by killing summer, they had disturbed the balance of the seasons, leading to the world freezing in an instant. Fuko asked what freezing meant, so Apocalypse clarified using Mui's untruth. With summer gone and its control over positive temperatures lost, winter would gain momentum. If they failed to defeat winter, Earth would become an ice planet and humanity would perish. Fuko screamed in frustration, arguing they were only completing the quest given to them. Apocalypse questioned their perception of quests and whether they thought completing them would make the world a better place to live. Apocalypse bluntly stated they should be grateful for the rewards they receive, and to God, they were merely toys. Andy pondered their next move and asked Juiz if she knew where Winter was. She confirmed Winter was on Mount Ararat, watched over by Billy and Byrne. Andy wondered why Billy hadn't killed Winter, so Juiz explained Billy was trying to control the quest's end by camping near Winter. Despite her injuries, Juiz sat up and said they would negotiate with Billy to use Byrne to kill Winter, as failing to do so could freeze many innocent people within a day, which they needed to prevent. Andy knew Billy wouldn't benefit from this deal, so he asked if they would offer Apocalypse in exchange, to which Juiz refused. She explained that the Under was after Fuko's power, so handing over Fuko and Apocalypse would leave them with no options. As they discussed their plan to fight the Under, Tella arrived, advising against their idea and urging them to consider their current state. Juiz introduced Tella to them as Billy's assistant, whose ability they were yet unaware of. Tella threw something at them, a message from Billy intended for Fuko. When it landed, they saw it was Juiz's sword, along with her severed arm. They were shocked and momentarily stunned by what they saw. Juiz quickly calmed them down, but they immediately attacked Tella, who easily repelled them. Top was irritated, while Andy speculated that Tella's power might be an invisible barrier. Top expressed how they couldn't remain calm after what the Under had done to Juiz. Watching Fuko, Tella thought if she really was an ordinary person, she would have fulfilled the requirements already. Tella wondered what Fuko's heart would tell her to do in this situation. Fuko called out to Tella, explaining that many people would die at this rate, so they should kill Winter immediately. Tella refused, explaining that changing their plan on when to kill Winter would cost them their advantage, and trading Apocalypse for that wasn't sufficient. Tella added that the death of many would benefit them because, without the powerless denominators, finding the numerators, the negators, would be easier. Juiz was angered by their plan, and Nico prevented her from standing due to her condition. Fuko then suggested she would join the Under immediately if it meant killing Winter. Tella was surprised, as were the other Union members. Juiz tried to discuss Fuko's decision, emphasizing her importance in the loop and the risk involved, but Fuko assured her she would be okay, stressing the need to protect the innocent as their only option. Fuko pointed out that when they fought against Billy after his betrayal, he was able to copy all their abilities except hers, indicating Billy hadn't found the requirement to do so yet. She believed Billy wouldn't take her life until he had achieved this. Juiz attempted to argue, but Fuko insisted she still trusted Billy even after losing her hand, and it was time for her to see what he was planning. Fuko also took Juiz's sword, with Juiz agreeing and apologizing. Fuko accepted the task and Tella, though this wasn't their original plan, agreed to Fuko's deal and took her with them. Tatiana, Top, and Chikara tried to stop Fuko, suggesting they think of another plan. Before leaving, Andy shouted to Fuko, reminding her not to die, to which Fuko assured him she would return soon.